One of the experiments I invented to try to make street epistemology videos more entertaining is called drunk epistemology. The idea is simple. Both participants in the conversation start out by taking several shots of alcohol and then try to have a cogent conversation while rapidly becoming intoxicated. Kind of like the wildly popular Hot Ones series, maybe. Does inebriation help or hurt the process? Is rapport improved or destroyed? Are people more likely to honestly confront the quality of their reasoning, or is their cognition impaired to the degree that true reflection is impossible? In addition, there are ethical considerations. For example, is somebody who is drunk able to give true informed consent? Is it manipulative to impair somebody and then potentially interfere with their worldview? I invite listeners to weigh in and tell me what you think in the comments. In order to test out this concept, I visited the Pine Tree in Westport on a Sunday night in August. The bartender knew the locals and pointed out a couple of potential interviewees, including Cathy, who was sitting at the bar. She agreed immediately. We went to a quiet spot in the rear of the establishment, and she told me a remarkable story, which I've since fact-checked. All the details she shares are true and have been documented in news stories as well as other podcasts. However, there is one thing she has not shared publicly before: her beliefs about how and why the events occurred. Cathy starts out by telling her story. Let me give a trigger warning, as she describes a violent death in excruciating detail. If you'd like to skip those details and jump right to the drinking and the street epistemology, that starts about 19 minutes into the interview. Before we start, let me mention another ethical consideration always at play in street epistemology. If it appears that your conversation partner may be harmed by letting go of a belief, you should end the interaction right away. That's what happens at the end of this chat, when it becomes clear that Cathy's beliefs are what she needs in order to cope with the tragedy that she faced. With that said, let's get to the interview. My name is Nick, and this is Conversations on the Coast.
I just want to get your name again.
Yeah, my name is Nick.
Nick?
Yeah.
Nick what?
Dallett.
How do you spell that?
It's D-A-L-L-E-T-T.
Oh, that's an unusual name. I don't think I've heard that one.
Yeah, there's not a lot of us around, and when we find it, we know we're related.
So what's the background?
The background is it's British, but we're from Norman French. So at one point in our history, it was Dalle.
Okay.
And now it's Dallett. It got anglicized at some point. And I live here in Westport.
Oh, you do?
Yeah.
Oh, so do I.
There you go.
I mean, I figure most people, well, actually, it's tourist season, so it could be just about anyone who's here. Awesome. So, actually, do you want to tell me about your son and kind of what happened there? For which, condolences.
Thank you. So my son was born in Crescent City, California.
Okay.
And in 1988. And then we moved up here in 2001.
Okay.
Taylor came with, his name is Taylor. Taylor came with us. He struggled. He had issues with school. And other issues. He always wanted to have friends. He had a hard time making friends. And he was always bigger than the other kids his age, and school was hard. So in 2000, oh God, it's hard to remember anymore. So he was killed in 2010. He had gone there to get away from the Tacoma area, because we live in our other houses in Westport or in University Place. So he moved back to live with his aunt and uncle in Crescent City, and then he kind of couch surfed with different people.
Yeah.
And the last guy he was living with, Reuben. Reuben was a great guy. He was helping Reuben rebuild his house. And through Reuben, he met a guy named Jared Wyatt, who's a surfer and an MMA fighter.
Okay.
So my husband is a martial artist.
Okay.
Has several black belts, but he's not into fighting. He's into the discipline and the positive part of martial arts.
Yeah, the structure and all
Right.
that. Yeah.
So my son thought, oh, if I can do this, it'd be more like my dad.
Yeah.
And he also bought his dad had a 54 Chevy he remodeled and fixed up. And so my son bought this old truck that he was trying to fix up, which was a mess when we saw it. But anyways, on March 20th, 2010, he was invited to go up to party at Jared Wyatt's house up in Klamath. With Jared's ex-girlfriend, Billy Joe, and another guy nicknamed Shorty. And they were going to do some mushrooms. And Billy Joe had a newborn baby. I don't know what the hell she was doing up there. She had all these kids, little kids. She was Jared's ex-girlfriend. She was there for some reason. Jared also had a grow room. So the thought is that Shorty, I'm still not sure who provided the mushrooms, if it was Shorty or Jared, but the story is that I heard is Shorty provided the mushrooms. Should we do a shot? Not yet. Okay. Do a shot.
No. Let's. I wanted some of the backstory, but we haven't really started the. Okay. So I want to wait. I want to wait until.
So Shorty. So my son worked at the restaurant in Crescent City. He got off at 11. Jared, Shorty, and Billy Joe went there and asked him if he wanted to go party with them. It wasn't quite 11 yet. So, of course, my son's 21. He said yes. And Billy Joe and Jared went ahead. Shorty stayed there to pick up my son, and so from what I understand, they really didn't know each other before then. He went back to where Taylor lived, couch surfing, so Taylor could change his clothes and whatnot. And then they took off to go to Klamath, which was 30 miles south, or 30 minutes south of Crescent City. A lot of windy, Highway 101, very windy, lots of redwoods. So they get there and they were going to do the mushrooms. Billy Joe didn't like the thought of doing them, so I think she tried it, she didn't like it, she was drinking vodka. My son had no alcohol in his system when the tox screen was done, but he and Jared and Shorty did these mushrooms. Jared was also doing steroids.
Good.
So during the night, a lot of stuff is going on. Under the delusion of the mushrooms, both Taylor and Jared were, from what I understand, were imagining different things, the end of the world, a tsunami, whatnot. Jared was freaking out. He went outside, and Shorty was going to leave. Jared didn't want him to leave. Taylor tried to help Shorty leave. So, I don't know why Taylor and Billy Joe didn't go with him, but Shorty eventually left. And the night progressed. Jared was having a lot of issues. He thought my son was hitting on his ex-girlfriend. Billy Joe was actually his ex-girlfriend. And so we eventually started fighting. I don't know if they were fighting to just a spar type thing. So while they were fighting, Billy Joe thought it sounded like they were having sex, which they weren't. Taylor put her in the back bedroom to be safe. And so Jared eventually broke every bone in my son's face. He stabbed him in the liver with his little pruning shears for his pot plants. And then he was still alive, so he proceeded to remove most of his face. And Taylor was still talking, so he cut out his tongue.
Oh yeah, you're gonna wait or something. Yeah. Well, I mean, it's at the bar.
And I don't know why he removed his eyes, but he also removed his eyes. And then he proceeded to try and take out his heart. So in order to do that, sternum is very strong. So he tried cutting for these little pruning shears, cutting from the stomach up and then from top down, eventually so he could get to his heart. He got to his heart, ripped his heart out, which is what ultimately killed my son, and threw it in the fire. He also fed parts of my son to his dogs. Shorty came back. This is where it gets kind of confusing. So Shorty came back because he left his little puppy there when he left. I don't know if that's true or not. So he talked I don't know how Shorty left there, if he was high on mushrooms, and drove back to Crescent City because the road is crazy windy. So he drove back, got his wife to take him back up there in their van. This is back in Klamath. And so they go up to the house so Shorty could get his dog, supposedly. So Shorty goes in to get his dog, and he sees Jared on the couch attacking someone, which was Taylor. And he backed out, and he and his wife had to go down to a place called Rec Inn because there's no cell phone service there. And they called the police. It took the police, it's a 30-minute drive between Crescent City and Klamath, so I don't know how long it took the police to get there, but they showed the police where it was at. And when the police got there, Jared was buck naked, covered in blood, and he said, He said the devil made me do it, or I killed the devil, or whatever. He thought my son was the devil. And they took Jared into custody. Jared's like, I killed my best friend. He just got really, he's like, I killed my best friend. Why did I kill my best friend? So he was put on suicide watch. And they did interviews with Shorty and Billy Joe. And of course, Jared. Their equipment wasn't working properly. So, Billy Joe, since she was his ex-girl, Jared's family was not, they weren't good. They were very threatening. And they were threatening to Billy Joe. So she had to be on their side. So she told these stories that weren't really, I think, true about Taylor and what Taylor did that night. In fact, I know they're not true because Taylor would never do that. Like saying he was hitting on her or whatnot. And when the police got there, they totally ignored the grow room Jared had up there. He had a grow room.
Yeah.
So the theory is that Shorty provided these mushrooms, possibly a different type of mushroom that was more potent, and then he left to come back to steal what was in the grow room, mushrooms, or not the mushrooms, the pot.
Yeah.
And but when we heard about it, all they told us is that Taylor was stabbed. They didn't tell us the details of his death until after we got there.
Yeah.
And I was just like, oh. If there's something that can be done to help, like a mental health breakdown, you know.
Yeah. Cathy, I gotta say, for you to be carrying this for 14 years,
Oh,
that's just,
it's hard. Not
my
many
heart
people
goes out to you.
know the true details of my son's death.
Yeah.
My husband doesn't know. My family doesn't know.
Was this not in the news? Not.
Oh yeah, it was in the news. If he
Okay.
had fully gone to trial,
Yeah.
because the district attorney, oh my God, I went through so many district attorneys. The first one had issues with alcohol and whatever, and he knew I did not want the death penalty. And it was election year. So every time I'd go down there, I'd have all these stupid guys approach me, wanting me to support them for the election for district attorney. It was awful, awful, awful. And I said, I live in Washington. I can't support you for anything. I don't live in California anymore. That has nothing to do with me. And so the election came around, and the district attorney at that time was named Mike Reese. He lost the election. And another guy named I lose words.
Well, this seems like a good moment to to kind of get to the main event, kind of like talking about the belief. So let me talk about what, kind of give the rules again, what we're going to do. So we have 4 shots here. And tell me again what these are.
They're called Mama Sally's. Usually there's a
Oh, the salt rim.
it's a special, but they don't have it now. So.
And is this just a pine tree specialty, or is this like a known thing? Because it's not something I'm
Oh no, this is just here at the pine tree.
Awesome, that's good. So, as I mentioned, I do this thing, street epistemology, right? We record this for a podcast, and so what we're going to do that's especially fun tonight, hopefully fun, is we're each going to do 2 shots.
Okay.
And then we're going to talk about something that you believe. And I gather you've got some beliefs around Taylor's death.
I do, definitely do.
And we're not really going to talk about the belief. Like, we'll try to get it down to a statement, one statement. But what I want to do is I want to talk about your reasons for belief, and then the methods that you use to figure out what's true, right? So the name of the game is epistemology, and what that is the study of knowledge.
Okay.
And so it's all about, like, how do we know what's true?
Yeah.
And how do we form our beliefs?
Okay.
So that's what it's about.
Okay.
So if you're ready,
I'm ready.
let's go.
Thank you, sweetie.
Oh, awesome. Oh, could I get a cheeseburger?
Yeah, regular fries?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you. All right. Cheers.
I haven't eaten yet today, and I've been drinking a lot.
Oh. There's one. Oh, that's delicious.
Oh yeah.
That's like surfboard wax.
Yes. With the rim, it's even better.
Sure.
I have to go to work tomorrow too.
Me too. Okay. So what is the belief that you had if you're gonna like state it in a concise way?
So I'm a Christian,
Okay.
and I believe in the afterlife.
Mm-hmm.
And I know my son, Taylor, is there. I always wanted my children, my ultimate goal for them was for them all to be happy. I have 3 children.
Yeah.
So after my son died, he came to me in a dream.
Mm-hmm.
And he was coming down these steps. His shirt was open, and he was whole and healthy. And he told me he was okay. He was good. Everything was fine. And I was like, okay, I know I am eventually going to meet my son in the future. But then there's another side of it, the demonic side.
Mm.
Because speaking with the 2 people involved the most, Jared and Billy Joe, there was a demon presence there.
Okay.
And which I don't doubt, because I don't doubt that at all. Billy Joe told me that this demon even came to her house with her children in the bed and was terrorizing them. But during this time with Jared, he was like, he couldn't get back in the house because there was this demon. And when I met with him after my son died, and he told me that his mother was wicked, awful. She caused a lot of problems. But he felt like he was under a demonic, I don't know if I said that right, presence that was kind of controlling what he was doing.
Yeah, and so if I can just rephrase that back to you, so that sounds like you believe that that's why Jared was acting in a
Yes.
like in an erratic manner and
I think
doing all the mutilation of the body and
I think there was he thought my son looked like the devil and he wanted to kill the devil.
yeah. Okay.
And
So if you think about like what's the main reason that you believe that it was a demonic possession? Like you mentioned a couple of things.
Well,
you mentioned
I'm a Christian,
Yeah.
and I feel that I believe in the devil and demons and evil powers out there. And after hearing what Jared told me and what Billy Joe told me, I can believe there was a demonic presence involved that night.
Okay. So the main reason that I'm still not sure I understand the main reason that you believe, because you've talked about their testimony that there was a demonic presence, and you've talked about your Christian beliefs. So what would you say is the main reason that you believe that it was a demonic presence that caused Taylor's death?
Because Taylor was Jared's best friend. And when everything was said and done, he had to go to suicide watch because he couldn't understand why he killed his best friend. He killed his best friend. He's like, he's the only friend I had. I can't believe I killed my friend. And he shared with me issues with his mother and how evil she is. And Billy Joel also shared with me situations she had that a demonic presence was there, and that Jared, when there was a point where he was freaking outside just before Shorty left, and he couldn't get in the house. He felt like he was being stopped by the demons, and I mean.
So can you define for me what is a demonic presence?
I've never experienced it for myself, but I feel like it's something that takes control over somebody, and they are unable to make their own decisions, that this presence is making it for them, and suppressing normal function for this other illusion it gives them to, like I said, he thought my son was the devil. My son had, one of those goatee type beards, and he thought, and I can show you a picture, how he thought my son physically was the devil. And I've always believed in angels, demons, heaven, God, Jesus. So what convinces you that it was demonic possession as opposed to, say, the influence of the drugs and the steroids? After talking to Billy Joe, we finally talked 2 years after the fact. And when she told me how this demon presence followed her to her own, where she lived with her children, terrorized them, and listening, and then I met with Jared, and he also told me about this demon presence. I don't doubt that it was, but it's not something you can share with the average person, because people don't believe in that kind of stuff. But I do believe in that there are demons out there, and that they cause bad things. And
if you were to rate on a scale of 0 to 100 how confident you are that it was demonic possession,
I would say,
where are you on that scale?
95%.
Okay. So let's test that.
Okay.
So if you could be convinced that drugs could cause all the symptoms of demonic possession, would that reduce your confidence that it was an actual, like, supernatural presence?
Well, as far as mushrooms are concerned, I've done mushrooms myself in the past. It's always a very laid back, easy experience.
Well, I'm just presenting a hypothetical,
Right.
If you could, hypothetically, if a study came out that said, it turns out mushrooms in certain circumstances, maybe when paired with steroids, could cause this type of effect.
Thanks, James.
Would you still be at 95% confidence?
Yeah. I mean, I know Jared was on steroids, and I know that's a factor, and I know steroids have affected other people, but after hearing the stories involved with not only Billy Joe, but with Jared and his former partners,
Okay.
it's hard for me to disclaim that demons were involved.
Okay. So, if people tell you things that they believe about what happened, is it possible for them to be wrong? So would it be possible for Billy Joe to be wrong about there being a demonic presence who chased her?
Oh, she never said that in the
Okay.
court process. Nobody ever
Yeah.
said that during the whole court process.
No, I'm just, but she shared that with you, right?
She shared it with me.
I'm just saying, if somebody believed that, is it possible that for them to be wrong? Just any given person.
Well, I think if it's just like myself. If you share that with people, they're not going to believe you.
No, but not believe. I'm just saying, like, let's say I told you that, I don't know, something, we'll make something up, that I saw a leprechaun behind the door. Is it possible that I'm wrong about that?
Well, yeah, I would think so.
I mean, and you realize
Right,
I'm doing
right.
a hypothetical,
Right. So I would have a hard time believing that.
Yeah. So if it's possible for somebody to be wrong, like, you can believe them or not, if it's possible for them to be wrong, then why is somebody's testimony about demonic possession a good reason to believe that it's true?
Because that helps me process what happened to my son.
Okay. So it sounds like this is important to you,
It is.
and it helps you deal.
It does.
Yeah.
It's. I don't know how else to explain what happened to my son. I don't know how anybody in their right mind could do what they did to my son if they were not under the influence of something else. And by the time they got through testing everything, there was no mushrooms involved, no psilocybin, no alcohol. Neither of them had drank. My son didn't have any, unfortunately, had nothing to drink that night. And I heard after the fact by the first district attorney that there were steroids involved, but that's never been proved. That was never in the records. Just like the grown room wasn't in the records. I did have some guy from UC Davis contact me about some kind of certain mushroom that makes people react more violently than normal.
Wow.
And that was his story as to what happened. And he said he met with Jared, and Jared said that Taylor had hurt him, but when I went to the powers that be, they showed me pictures. They showed me pictures of Jared naked. No wounds on him that would indicate my son had tried to hurt him.
Yeah.
And, of course, I've seen all the autopsy findings and photos of my son.
That must have been so hard to watch. see.
Actually, the hardest part was, because I'm in the medical field, was to read the autopsy report and all the findings. But I know they might be a demonic presence. I know that my son came to me and he's told me he was okay. He was good. And
that dream was wonderful. That must give you a lot of hope.
Oh, it does. That's what I live for. And I'm ready to go anytime. I'm like...
Cool. Cathy, this belief is very, very important to you. Mm-hmm. And I think maybe we should wind this up now.
Okay.
Because what I don't want to do is make you more upset.
I'm not upset. I don't mind talking about it.
Yeah.
But I don't know what more you want me to say about this.
I mean, I think there's a lot more we could talk about. And again, it's not really about the belief, right? It's about like how do you form your beliefs and what evidence do you use to support your beliefs? And I think we've got what we need there. Cool.
Okay.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
This is wonderful. Oh, and I'll hang out with you. I've got a burger coming in.
Okay.
We can still hang out.
I still need to eat my. I haven't eaten at all today,
you should eat that, especially after doing some shots.
I need to eat something.
Yep. You've been listening to Conversations on the Coast, a series from Washington State featuring civil conversations using street epistemology to explore what people believe and why. Find out more at streetepistemology.com.